In Isaiah 1:17, it is written, "One should plead the widow's cause. In this way, I may able to advocate their cause, and that is to present the life of a widow." Dear participants, fellow presenters, in the second International Conference on Education in Social Sciences and Engineering 2021. I am Bernard Gerona, presenter from University of San Agustin. In my study, Marriage Life to Widowhood, an inquiry on the quality of life of a widow. No woman should lose her status, livelihood, or property when her husband dies. Yet millions of widows in the world face persistent abuse, discrimination, and disinheritance, as well as destitution. In societies where the husband is the sole provider, his death can leave his family destitute. Added, there is a reduction in the living standards of many wives at all levels after the death of their husband. Moreover, widow experiences reduction in living standard regardless of the levels of income. This study focused on the life of a widow before and after the death of her husband. The quality of life, according to World Health Organization, defined as an individual's perception of their position in the context of the value system in which they live in relation to their goals, expectations, standards, and concerns. This study aimed to inquire on the quality of life of a widow. Specifically, it sought to answer the following question. 1. What is the status of her life before the death of her husband? Second, how did the death of her husband affect her life? Third, how did she able to support herself and her family? I'm going to present right now the methods. This research is a qualitative study employing narrative inquiry, which is a design of inquiry appropriate in capturing detailed stories or life experiences, particularly the quality of life of a widow, where there is a correct description of event. Information gathered will be retold or restored by the researcher into a narrative and configure them into a story using a plotline. The participant of the study is a widow located in one of the cities in Western Visayas, which was chosen after confirmation from the referral of an acquaintance. Right now, I'm going to present the discussion of the study, which will focus on the quality of life of a widow. The quality of life of a widow. The story of a widow in this study can be theoretically explained by social convoy model, where the widow is supported and surrounded by her significant others, specifically her supportive family, loving children, and generous friends, who move with the widow throughout her life, where there was a giving and receiving of social support. Moreover, the widow who receives strong support after the death of their respective spouse tends to live with stability, while those who lack the said support struggle in achieving stability. In this study, widow overcomes transition from the marriage life to widowhood because she was able to receive social support from the immediate members of the family and friend of her husband in the market, and her friends in a Catholic organization. In this support realistically ranges from emotional to economic in nature. The widow is an 80-year-old woman having an 8 children and a deceased husband died 30 years ago. She belongs to a family with 5 members, specifically 3 of them are women, in which she is the oldest among women, and 2 older brothers. Her husband used to work in the city hall as a tax collector, specifically in the supermarket, and ended after he died from stroke. When her husband was still alive, her only function is to do the housework, including attending the needs of their children. All throughout the narration, she was highly concerned on providing care for her family, which fractures the entire family after the death of her husband. Since she has 5 children, which result her worries on how she was able to take care of them, she struggled in her parenting functions, specifically in raising children. The previously mentioned statement resulted to her dependency towards her husband, where the death of her husband led to detrimental effect, specifically support to the family, which is similar to the result of the studies. The difference The informant is an old widow in a middle age where her husband died. Her narration of dependency is similar to the result of Zoe, where women who relied on husband for financial support, making the transition to employee and sole provider more difficult than those who are already in the paid labor force. Added, it has a little difference to the findings of Gentry et al. And Tennant et al. She had experienced difficulty in funeral costs, but this difficulty was solved when her father urged her brother and sister to shoulder the said expenses in the contribution of the friend of her husband in the market, where his husband was a former tax collector. The widow, in her transition, have only few options available to improve their economic status. In her case, was to find a job to take care of her children. That is why she faced with the loss of resources in widowhood. She was not able to escape poverty or even have better lifestyle after the death of her husband, but she was able to remove her worries after she became a regular employee and was able to send her children to school, even to college studies. It has financial implication after the death of her husband, where she narrated how she planned out the needs of her children, specifically in the financial aspect, like food, education, etc., which is similar to the result of Kemp et al., where spousal death urged financial planning by the bereaved widow. The result of the study from these researches is consistent to the situation of the widow. Aside from the household chore like child rearing, widow have the utmost responsibility, where the widow said was stressful on how she was able to help her respective children after the loss of their husband. She also narrated that her husband used to spoil their children and highly generous when it comes to food despite their poverty. A year when her husband died and exhausted the money from the husband insurance, she was thinking of finding a job as her source of income to support her children's need, which is consistent to the result of the study of Sivak, Ware, and Willis, stating that earning income through work is the main way women can improve their status. It becomes increasingly difficult to achieve with age. In her case, she was 43 years old during that time. The findings of the study were as follows. A family life where both parents are present and performing specific role is less stressful life like in the data where the husband is the provider while the wife takes care of the children in the house. Second, the death of a husband resulted to the adjustment and struggles of the widow, specifically in the financial aspects such as food, education, and other necessities for child rearing. Aside from the finances, psychological transition is present in the widow after the death of her husband, where the widow shows excessive distress on how she would take care of her children while enduring the bereavement from losing her husband. Family and friends plays a vital role in the well-being of the widow, from employment to education, the studies of her children, food, and other needs for the burial, and expenses in the specialization, which all of this help the widow in her transition to widowhood. Based on the narratives of the participant, the significant factors which lead the widow to go beyond household work was the death of her husband, where aside that she is no longer have a provider, her love to her children, specifically intending all their needs, her shyness to ask help from her sibling, led her to find a job for her family's well-being. Another thing is the conclusion, which will be the last discussion of this presentation. In the view of the findings in this investigation, the following conclusions were drawn. The quality of life of a widow revolves around the well-being of the family, while all of them belongs to an environment where the widow is too dependent to the husband, where the husband provides almost all the needs of the family. When the husband died, the wife suffered excessive worry on how she can play both roles as a provider and nurturer towards her children. But this event also opens an opportunity where the widow learned that she is also capable in providing the needs of her children, including paying their tuitions for their studies. Family members, especially her siblings, her friends, and friends of her husband, and her children plays a vital factor in her transition from married life to widowhood, where, despite her excessive worry, her brothers and sisters able to help her in the specialization in burial expenses over her friend providing spiritual and moral support. Her husband friends also sent assistance from food to helping her in the wake, and her children, which is her source of strength and inspiration, to move forward despite of the death of her husband, so she can tend their needs, which all help her get rid such worry and proceed to productive work such as working in the city hall. And that is all. Thank you.